Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Lopez, as already introduced me. I'm going to talk about getting started with WSL2 for your the development platform. So here's a little bit of my credentials, but the intro was great, so I'll skip that. And the agenda for today is we'll see what is WSL2, what features does it have, the performance facts and history for the product and benchmark, a little data of it, how to prepare your environment to it, configure your WSL2, the requirement scenarios for using containers, preparing your SQL environment using your IDE tools and all the platform, the newest tools that there is on the market for prepare for Microsoft to use it, and a demo of hovering, checking the environment and containers, preparing the DB, the OS, and all the ingredients that you can interface with it. So it's that's about what we're going to cover. These are the insight of what it is and the features. So WSL2 is a Windows Subsystem for Linux. Currently, we are on the version 2, so it's not that new, but it is in haste. It's better. What it allows us is a complete new subsystem over Windows, on our Windows, running any distro that is on the Microsoft Store. You can execute Bash. You can run any script transparently. That's great. And you can run any tarball package as an RPM. You can run it as whatever way you install on Linux as a bare metal. You can do it as as a virtual machine on this WSL. So another addition is that you can execute Linux binaries from Windows, and you can the performance of the usage of the file system in your Windows is improved on the WSL2 because you can see it transparently on the Linux, from the Linux to the Windows, and you can use it transparently. And that's part of it. Then the next feature, that is the full compatibility with the kernel, Windows kernel, that is from the Linux, and that allows you to run any API if you are trying to use any driver that you need. You don't need to use, I don't know if you are familiar with in Linux, but in the past, you have the driver, you need to use a utility like any disk wrapper utils or wine maybe to use a full compatibility from the libraries that there were on Windows for drivers itself. In this, you don't need that kind of emulation. You can use the API that you have on Windows. So that's great. So here's a little benchmark between the two versions. And here are some capabilities that you can do on the VMware and the VirtualBox. From the WSL1, sorry, you could use VirtualBox and VMware. In the WSL2, you can't, and there's a reason for it. You can now use the virtualization tool for that Windows has, because in that way Microsoft could in haste and improve the file system usage for the virtualization for all the Linux that you're running on your transparently on your computer, on your Windows host. So that's the improvement. That's the way that the kernel and the OS file systems are improved, in the boot times, and all the ingredients are better then. So for that reason, I would like to show you some benchmark that the Open Benchmarking org.org had done over the WSL2 product. And overall tests shown that WSL2 had improved from 63 percentage against 51 that WSL1 had, and against the bare metal Ubuntu 20. Well, there's a difference because the bare metal is a complete installation from your machine, and against what you have on WSL, that it is a virtualization after all. You need to have a sub layer there, and of course there will be some differences, of course. But in terms of performance itself, when it did test it on SQL RDBMS engine, they tested on SQLite. They haven't tested still with SQL Server, but WSL2, sorry, had improved in fewer response time, like 3 times, if you see here, 3 times better than the first version, and had improved even compared with the bare metal version. So that's great. And they have tested with the NoSQL databases with Redis, and you see WSL had improved how many requests per second can attend, even gain a little bit against bare metal Ubuntu. That's great. And for that, I just wanted to show you how it had evolved. And this slide is just to show you the evolution of Docker. And why am I talking about Docker? Because we're using it as the container tool or infrastructure that we're going to put on our Windows to use. And then we can see the evolution from the first version that uses everything use hypervisor. But the great thing about WSL, that this subsystem doesn't use microkernels as a little version of, or a small version, sorry, of Docker had prepared for the product in the first version, as we see here, that only had Docker Machine and Docker Compose. From the evolution here, from 2016 to 2019, they use a VirtualBox and Mobile Linux and a boot to Docker version that's a microkernel design for Docker, but it's not the complete thing, the complete Linux that you can use on Docker. So what is the improvement here, really? Is that you can have the complete Linux on your Windows hosting for your Docker. In that way, you can do whatever you like or whatever you need for the product and have the SQL Server in it. And that's great because you can use it and you can prepare it for your environment. As you know, a container for SQL Server is no more than a SQL on Linux. So you have the complete Linux there, right? So that's great. Okay, so here are the layers that you had on the common with Docker on Windows. You have the Docker CLI through the PowerShell and going to the Docker core to the backend. That's how we're used to managed. But here now on the and is transparently, because you don't longer need to interface through to PowerShell, because you can do it directly with you can use it PowerShell if you want, but you can use the Linux instead and have directly connected to your container instead of going to PowerShell, connecting to the container, using the Linux there, and getting to your container. So it fastest the process there. So we're going to prepare our environment and configure and see the configuration on what you need under requirements on to prepare our SQL, because right now we have only talked about the operative system. Well, just a little bit more here. Bear a little bit. The requirement for the WSL right now is the Windows 10 version 2004, but now it's on Windows Home. So that any device can have it. You only need to enable it using the deployment image servicing and management tool in your PowerShell and enabling the feature and restarting it. I have put it as a number 2 step to install the Docker desktop. However, if you only want to use it for another purpose, you don't need the Docker. However, but in this case, we need the containers, so we need it. In the third step, we're configuring the WSL with these commands. The parameter L is for listing all your Linux there. As you can have more than one. You can have more than one image there. And the second parameter is verbose, so you can check out what it's doing. And the second part of the upgrade is that now that you have the first version, once you install, you will have WSL1, and then you have to parameterize the set version to 2. So you'll set it to version 2, and this is how it will look. You will see here you have all the images that you have on your machine, and a little when you use WSL on your PowerShell, you automatically can connect and see all the features and all the stuff that you're running, the processes and all the resources that you're using on the machine. And that's great. And even tells you a little bit of information, so that's great. Okay, so the next part is using containers against not using containers, and what are the pros and cons for us, and what benefits do we get on it. First of all, use a containers scenario helps us because it helps us to be on the edge on what is using all the infrastructure right now. Everything is using containers, so that's a lightweight, faster, efficient way to do it. And the cons are like we need a specialized knowledge to use it, because it's not like installing and only using the default way to use it. But at the end, it's an investment if you see it. The next step is using microservices technology against it complex the layers between the layers. However, the microservices are technology to prepare, lift, and shift very fast, and help you to develop, destroy, and construct infrastructure very fast. So it's a good thing. And the thing is, the third part is you can introduce yourself to DevOps culture, to involve SQL Server to using it in your machine and preparing your code as a stage machine that you can prepare to use it to the cloud, Azure, right? So in this case, that helps you. The cons, well, try to put there a little bit. A standalone isolated stage, coupled versus decoupled, that depends on your scenario. I mean, your architecture, your business culture, and your business infrastructure. Not all is for containers. However, it depends, right? But if you can, it'll be great. And the last part, as a pro, I put it, is using infrastructure as a code search. I mean, in search of, you're trying to put your code as trying to create your code to be agile for using infrastructure in your Azure cloud. So that'll help you to move all to that technology. Okay, so I had identified a problem. If you say to me, how about using WSL, but not as I don't want to use containers. I want, if you say Linux is a whole system, then I want to install SQL Server for Linux in my Linux virtualized in my Windows on my WSL. Theoretically you could. However, WSL has a little bit issue there because it doesn't have systemd, which is a process necessary for SQL Server. So when you you can put the binaries there and try to install, but when you do, it will say you that that systemd is necessary to operate, so it will fail. So you could do some adequations to run systemd, some scripting that in the community they're trying to do, and put in the run level adequate to run it. However, doing this is like more like forcing the product to do it, and right now it is not prepared for a simple installation. So you need to like study a lot and prepare a lot. So that's not for it. The best way to use it is with containers and Docker, because it is prepared for it, and so it's lightweight. So how can I use it then? Well, you can install your Ubuntu, you can set your Docker on your Ubuntu, and you can install your SQL Server from Docker using it. And here it is. When you have Docker, here is the profile in your settings. We'll see it a little bit further. That you have to use WSL in your Docker, and you have to set it here in general settings, and you have to enable in resources the available distribution that you have on your Linux. So you have an Ubuntu, you will set it up on, sorry, and then you will Docker will interface with WSL. You don't have to do anything else, and then the interface is done in that way. So that'll be it from the steps, and you can have now your SQL. Now we'll talk about how to what are the best practices to use your code and how to manage when you have your scenario. So first, you have to define a SQL container for your Docker file. We'll talk about more of a Docker file. What is? It's a config file to create a Docker image with your customized information for your Docker definition. So that's a best practice. The second one is create volumes dedicated for SQL container data. And that's one special note here, because you can create a SQL container on the fly if you like, where with a parameter without parameters and without volumes. But the problem here is that your information is volatile. And how about I want to use it more than one time? So that'll have an issue there. So with the using of volumes, you can prepare a dedicated storage where you can only mount your data, and that's a reusable scenario. The other is build and test your Docker container SQL image. You have to like test it. You have to verify that it works. And that's for the next part. You can use Git for it. You can have the repository there and configure it and integrate it with your code, and use you can have it on GitHub, of course, and run it your image as container. And then for the last, if you have all the scenario here, from here to here you are on your computer, and the next step, you will prepare your code and launch it to Azure container instance. With this, you use all the feature of the cloud to move all your code that you have prepared to pull all your container into a repository in Azure. In that way, you can like prepare it for your next step. You have like committed in your local machine, you have tested it, you have verified, and now you can move it and pull it to Azure. And that's one of the greatest thing that you can do. And right here, you have like all the good practices that helps you to do it. And what about tools? What tooling that are we going to use to see it all that is coming? First, everything we'll use Visual Studio Code with the WSL2 extension to configure our configuration to define it to our Ubuntu. The next, we'll use a SQL Server Visual Studio Code extension to connect to the SQL Server on our container locally. And next, we'll use Azure CLI tools to connect to the Azure, that we can see the registry there. And then also we'll use Docker VS Code extension to verify the containers, even so we can see the Azure registries there, and we can manipulate it visually. And we can use Azure Data Studio, and we, of course, the beloved SSMS, if you like, just to see the impact or the transparency of using it. So that's what we have, and let's go to the demo. Mm-hmm. 1 second, please. I'm just checking where I have it. Okay, so let's start. Here I have, let's see. Let's start again. Sorry. Oh, just one note. Yesterday was the VS Code day, so it was great. You can see it on the transcript and on the Microsoft Learn videos. You can see it there. It's really cool how to use it, and there are a lot of examples that you can use there. So let's go to business. First, we can see Docker configurations here. Let's see the parameterize. Let's see how much time do we need here? Settings. Okay, so it's a little bit slow. Well, just wanted to show you that in Windows Features, if you are asking, we were talking about hypervisors, right? So we talk about that Hyper-V was the one that managing the Windows Subsystem layer. But in this case, I don't even need to have configured Hyper-V on my machine, because I can do it if I want to, but that'll be like putting a little bit of stress to the machine, but you don't need it. However, it is used. So I just wanted to show you the images and the containers, how it looked in a GUI way. You can do it in this way if you like. And here's the setting that we were talking about. First, in general, we can have to set the use of WSL2 based engine. And the third step, we have to use the resources and WSL integration, and we have to enable the Ubuntu. Why Ubuntu instead of other? I have Kali and I have Alpine, because you have to use a distro that is supported by SQL Server, and the supported ones are SUSE and Ubuntu. So I use Ubuntu. So that's the main reason. That's why. But you can do it whatever. You can also enable each one, but that'll be for other projects. So the second part is using, well, I'll use PowerShell, but through the Windows console. So I think that I don't have any open session. No, I don't have it. So Windows terminal, I'll open it. And then here we are. We are seeing the cool part of it is that you can choose whatever language you like and whatever distribution you like. Even you can use the Azure CLI to connect to your Azure and do whatever code you like. And it's transparent also in Azure if you like to throw code to Linux or PowerShell. That's not differences there. So the next step is that you have to prepare your environment. I'll use Visual Studio Code here with a parameter, remote, and stating or specifying WSL plus and the distribution that you're using. But to do it, I need to verify what WSL do I have. So I can list it here. And these are, so this text, I can put it here and it will open. I have it already open. It will charge you the libraries and will set your environment with the WSL Ubuntu as you like to use. And why do I do that? And why do I care to do that? Because if I only open code as it is, I cannot interface completely with the WSL I here have environmented to my Linux machine using the Windows. So in this way, I'm like moving to the other way, and I can even when you open the file system and you open the file, you'll see that you have the location of your Linux, not your Windows. If you put show local, it will put you in your Windows. So that's what changes a little bit, and there are little tweaks there, but for our demonstration, it doesn't matter right now. So we talk about these three commands right now: WSL -L, -B, -S to set it as default and to open the code. So let's talk about using for SQL Server itself. So you can download from your Docker and put it from the Microsoft repository. You're using Docker pool, and you will take your images from the whatever distribution you're using. So with that, you will see, let's clear here because it's a little bit messy. Okay, so let's see, where were we here? So in the same way that we did on the GUI on the Docker, we can see the Docker pool that we have done. Here are the SQL Server distributions that I have. I have a 2019 and a 20. Also, I have another that I have created myself as a Docker, using a Docker file, creating a Docker image for it. And we'll see it a little bit more further. Just going to continue with the code. Bear with me, please. Okay, so here are a rudimentary way to do a container for a SQL Server, where you can use Docker run. You'll always use a Docker run. However, the parameters are the differences. You have to state the port from the host to the guest. That's a network issue, configuration that you can choose. Here's the name of the container that you are choosing to do. I will use this one for our demo. And with that parameter, we privileged the run of the container in the running with privileges. And this is the TTY interface to interface with commands to the container, and explicit the parameters for the SA password that you have to configure, and accept EULA for your container. This is like you're installing or something as such. And then you have to select a volume, as we were talking. In this particular example, I'm trying to use a way to use Windows path as host, followed by a colon character to the guest position in Linux. This is the container one, and this is the local Windows path. If we were using PowerShell, we have to use inverse folder character. So that's just a note in case you're using PowerShell instead to create the Docker. In this kind of one, we are using Linux, so we're using the division character. So in this one, you have to select the Docker image. You have to use only 4 digits. You only need to use, 4 digits of the image name. Here are. So in this case, we are selecting the 2017 version of it, and that's it. That's how you create your container. That's like the rudimentary way of doing it. And here are a little bit more complex situation. Oh, before I skip this part, I have created a Docker volume for this container. We can see the list of your volumes here. I have a shared volume for the 2017 and a shared volume for 2019 and a SQL volume. Okay, I have created these like folders, if you like, where the data will be, and I can prepare. I think that you can even configure a LUN for it if you have configured a dedicated LUN for it, and you can select a path and a drive for it. So that will be great. So, and that way you cannot lose anything. You know, if you like, and have the data like for various purposes. So you have to be prepared for any scenario. So here are another configuration of the container. Run it by the 2017 version. Here are, I named it with the number 2 version. I didn't scratch this. This had the option of volume instead of mount. I can use volume instead of mount and set it. However, I'm using mount in the real version where containers are, to use the option type of bind, to binding the folder to the share path location, to the target, the share volume that I have created here in the Docker volume. I will target to the Mount SQL in the container. The same parameters are as I have shown you before. And here are the share volume for the 2019 with a different image. If you see here, I have a different image, right? So that's I'm using the image for 2019 instead of 2017, and that's about it. So let's try to and just for, this one is the same. It's another example with a rudimentary way to using a source, bind, and a destination. Okay, so let's try to run the container that I have created, and then run the scenario that I have, which is that database refresh, and then we will try to delete the container and do it again. So if we have enough time. Okay, so what we are doing here is using Docker PS as to see all the processes that are running. We see here that I have one container, which is the name that we will see here. And I have it running up. The only command that I need in Docker start. We'll stop it as here. And the response will be the name of the container. This is the response here, and it shows stop. But it is a little rudimentary to see it in code, just because I'm used to it. But if you're not, you can use your extension. You can use Docker extension. You can see it here. It already refreshed, and you can start it from here. Start. It's the same that doing the command. So it has started. Docker PS can show you that it will be up in like been up like 4 seconds, start in 8 seconds. And if you do Docker inspect, you can see the JSON configuration for it, and you can see how it is configured, the bridge, and all the information for the ports. And you can see this particular position. You can see the version of the SQL Server that I'm using, the distribution of the Ubuntu LTS that I'm using, and you can see, let's see here, hold on. The mount, here is the option that I want to show you. The type bind to the source that I'm using, that's in WSL as your host, and the destination and your container, and that's it. So now that you are on your container, you can see your container. We'll see a little bit of a scenario. Right now, we'll see the mount points where the location of the WSL are. We'll see, hold on a second, the folders where I have the back files here. You see mount C drive of the local machine of Windows where I have the backups. I have where the Windows local machine for the queries. Here they are, the queries that I'm using. And this one that I'm showing is the location of the WSL Docker desktop bind mounts of Ubuntu, where it shows the position where the container has all the queries. So in any particular point, if you edit your file in your Windows and you want to update your code, let's say you are trying to download it from somewhere, your SQL Server, and you have your script there, and you have to put it in your containers, you can do it. If you can do it from your Linux, but instead, if you're using your Edge or your whatever source you have, and you wanted to put it in your container, you only have to copy it. You have to move it from your Windows that your Linux can see and put it in your destination of that container can use. So in this scenario, what we'll do is using a bash script to do the transportation of the files. And the second scenario, and see the tail log operations for the transportation. We'll see the scripts. Don't worry about it. And then we'll see the connection for the SQL Server that we're connected. See the version inside the using the SQL command or inside your container. And then we'll refresh the database. How? Using the database restore. So what we'll do right now is to show you the bash scripts of transport and refresh and see the operation files. And see, because I did the tail operation. Okay, so transport. The transport bash, what it does is manually make changes in your Windows script, copied from your, if you did any changes from your script, copied from your Windows environment, take it from there and put it in your container bind that you have designated for it. Put it log into it, and then copy the scripts in there, mount it in the mount point position, such as the same that we did on the first step. Then that once we have copied, this is a small operation. I have granted permission as 777. You can do whatever you like. This is just a scenario to show you that you can do whatever you like there and compress the backup file if I need to do like an automate operation there, and put a little bit of a tar and put the naming of the file and creating a log. So I'll create a log there and put it. And that's about the transport bash script. And the other is the refresh. What it does is to execute 3 queries. First, it does the restore using SQL command, connecting, and executing the SQL restore. The second operation is to do an inspect and do a read error log. Okay, so what it does here, we'll see the script one by one. Let's see one here. Let's see, edit here, the files. One is the restore. That's the most important part. Okay, so in this part, this is like your known and beloved T-SQL. Well, the first part is to do the verify only logical verification of the back files that we're doing, to verify that all the files are well and there. There are 3 or 4, sorry, 4. And then it do performs of the restore of it and put it in the location where we're specifying. The default location is varp opt MS SQL. And then finally do integrity check using dbcc check file, DB. So in that way, this is like a small scenario to do a refresh scenario to doing in a container. So you can execute it very fast and do a very automated way to do it. This is a way to do it. The other way is that you already have the how you say it, the MDF and the LDF, and you just attach the database. This is another scenario. There's another way to use it. But in this case, we're trying to like simulate a process that you can repeat every time. So, okay, we'll return to the agenda and run the transportation of the files. I know that we have a version, but in this case, we're simulating that we're transporting and showing a different version of it. So if we do this, we'll see that the files have been updated. It has done a little bit of copy there, have compressed and given the permission, run the step 3, and everything have been done well and done the operation as we expected. So now we'll connect to the container and see the version. This is just a way of doing things, just to show you that you can connect to the SQL Server using the command shell. You can using the command shell. It will see it in another way, using the tools. So don't worry there. We'll show you a lot of ways that you can connect. And then we'll do the refresh in the bash and performing the refresh operation because we have the back files. So have seen that the back are verified, the transportation has been successfully, and now it is restoring the first database. Cool thing, I have taken this from a 2012 version backup from Windows and has updated to the 2017, I think it is, version, and it's a Linux version. So you see, it is transparent to the engine to do the performance of the restore. Okay, it is almost finishing. And it is the DBCC check, and I put the logs there, so it showed me everything there. It is just a way to do it. You can also put it in a log file if you like, so that way you can read it later and have like all your version there, or you can have it on your JIT or other ways to do it. Okay, so now we have refreshed the database. Now let's connect it to the database and see what it's doing, what we have there. So let's use query inspect. And let's connect. I'll connect here. And connect. After that, I'll connect using SSMS and then Azure Data Studio to see it in different ways. So you can see it here, WSL, and takes a little while to connect, I think. Depends on your machine. And you can use this SQL feature to see the query here if you only want to inspect and see the query as it is. You can see this is the log that we're checking. Log operation is there. You see the DBCC check that we did is there. The restore operations that we did is there. Everything. Okay. The second part is to show you the log files location, called the master, and all the metadata for the physical name. Although it says that it's on var opt, it is only logical location for the container. The physical location for the container is the mount point that we have created, that is the Docker volume that we have created, for it, and so it is pointing there. The other is when you, this is the version parameter, and you can see here, have the 2017, I think, 2017, and the databases that we have here, the times that we have restored. This is the query that we have run. We run it right now. T-SQL 20. These are the databases that have restored, the times that I have done, and the location for it. Where is the physical device where I took it, and the person or the username that did the query. Okay, so that's it. That's a way to see it. Now we'll see it in another way using the SSMS. The same query, connecting. Let's disconnect and connect again. We just need the localhost, need the SA, and need the password that you created for your Docker run command. And that's about it. It runs on your local host and shows you the database itself. Here is the databases that we have refreshed. Here is the query that we have run. Same command. You see here, here's the log. Here is the DBCG checks that we have done, the restores databases, and all that we have done. So with this, we can do whatever we like with having a Windows form to see things against your database. So let me see why it failed. I think that I didn't took. Oh, okay, the head was here. Sorry. The same way we're seeing the data from a different point of view. We're seeing the location of the physical files, the logical names, and the physical names, and all the things, the cool things that we have for SQL Server to see. Okay, now that we know that the database is refreshed, let's try to hit it with some testing. We'll use a parameterized tool, which is a SQL stress query tool done by Adam Mechanic.
Hi, Carlos. I'm really sorry to interrupt. Is there any way you can wrap in just a couple of minutes? Yeah.
Sorry about that. Sorry, I just.
You can take a couple of more minutes. It's okay.
No worries. If I like, I just wanted to show you, but okay, that's okay. I just wanted to let you know that you can do whatever you can do with the localhost. Let's see if it connects really fast. Integrated. If it's already too late for the next speaker, please stop me right now, and I'll stop. So
you can complete this part. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think it took a little bit to connect. So now because one second. Default database integrated. Oh, I see where it failed. Let's say. Okay, so we can test it there, and we can set the connection. Put the testing tool, and then when we run the let's use this one over here. I'll use the SQL Who is Active, also another tool from Adam Mechanic. To run it here, and you can see the utilization of the database here, and have the CPU and locations and reads and writes for the special session that we were doing for the test. So sorry that I have done it so fast right now. I didn't have enough time to right now. I didn't complete that part, but well, that's everything that I have done for today. I just wanted to show you that you can, whatever you can do it in all the scenarios for containers using containerd, and that's it. So important note for it is that WSL is a good option to use containers in SQL Server. And thank you for everything.